is going to join us. Let us get organized here, and we're going to start in a brief moment. Okay. Okay, folks, we are studying today Jewish ethics, Pirkei Avot. It's that time of year that we concentrate on ethical teachings, the custom is, and we're continuing our journey together. So we have on Zoom joining us, we have on Clubhouse joining us, we have on Facebook. So we're going to try to get everybody engaged, involved, and to learn some wonderful teachings. So we are on the first chapter, sixth Mishneh. I'm going to read the Mishneh, and then we're going to go into details of the Mishneh. First, we'll ask some questions, and if anybody has questions, feel free to ask them. Answers will unpack everything and then come up with some of the answers. So, Mishnah 6 tells us, Yeshua ben Perachia, Yeshua or Joshua, the son of Perachia, the Nitai Arbelite, and Nitai the Arbelite, meaning from Arbel in Hebrew. Not exactly certain where that is. The two of them, they received from the previous teachers of the previous Mishnah, Mishnah 5. Joshua, Yeshua, the son of Perachia, was the Nasi, the head of the Jewish people. And Nitai, the Arbelite, he was the Beis Din, the head of the Jewish court. So that's why they come together. They're pairs, because at that time, as we explained in the previous class, the Jewish people at one point had just one leader. Now it was divided leadership into two roles. Again, the Nasi, who took care of more of the spiritual and the positive angle, shall we say, of bringing people closer to Torah mitzvahs, to God. And then the head of the court of Jewish law was more about the enactments of law and making sure that that all the laws would be observed appropriately. So Yeshua ben Perachia Omer, Joshua the son of Perachia would say, now he would say a lot of things, but these are particular things that were very important to him. And of course, we want to have the historical background and understanding what is particularly important to Yeshua ben Perachia, these particular teachings that he espouses. And what are they? Aseh l'charav, assume for yourself a master, a teacher, a master teacher, maybe, if you were to say. Acquire for yourself a friend. The Havedan is called Ha'adam L'chaf Schus. And you should judge every person L'chaf Schus, to the side of merit. Those are the words that he says, or the teachings that he shares. Now, I have some questions, and feel free if you have any questions. We're not going to give the answers yet. First, we want to build up our case, and then we're going to give and go into the answers. So the first question for me is, what is Yeshua ben Perachia in his personal life that leads him to make these particular statements that he wants to make sure that we know, and that they are eternal, as they are part of the Torah, a lesson that should guide us based on something, of course, that he probably went through. So we want to appreciate that. Furthermore, if we're taking the words very, very, literal, of course, but aseh l'charav, make for yourself, assume for yourself, make for yourself a rav. It's sort of like almost in the Hebrew understanding of the word aseh is like an action, and even like forcibly make yourself. That's Could have been another language. Determine for yourself, or follow a master. Doesn't use that word. Let's say that. So that's very exacting. We need to know why. Knei l'chachaver means acquire. Like the word kanev comes from the Kenyan, means to make an acquirement, to acquire. What do you mean acquire yourself? Have a friend. What's the acquirement over here? And then havidan is kol adam. Judge every person. You're supposed to judge every person. Why? Maybe don't judge at all. Okay, so the judgment is l'chav schus, but maybe it should just be without judgment. When you're busy in someone else's life, just let it be, let them be, and therefore there wouldn't be any judgment at all. But here there is a judgment. Okay, it's a meritorious judgment, but why have any judgment at all? And what does it mean to every person meritorious judgment? How do we understand that? I mean, some people do awful deeds and they're actually taken up in a court of law. And there's a punishment for their actual deeds. So what does this statement actually mean? How do we understand this? Those are some of my questions. Anybody have their questions on this teaching before we go and delve into? Anybody would like to share on Zoom, on Clubhouse, on Facebook? You can also check there.
When it says acquire a teacher, what kind of teacher are they talking about?
Okay, excellent. So that's a good question. Well, thank you. First of all, it doesn't say acquire. It says make yourself, assume for yourself, make for yourself. For a friend, it says acquire. So that's
okay.
So
that's a difference.
Okay, that's a difference, but a good question. We will get there. Any other questions?
I guess the question will be what connects all three in one sentence.
Oh, very good. That was another question. Thank you, Eugenia. Thank you. Very good. I had that question, and thank you for taking it out of my head because I didn't verbalize it. I had it in the recesses of my mind. And yes, what connects all three ideas? Now, you could possibly see more of a connection between the first two. Make yourself a master teacher, acquire yourself a friend. Okay, so there you can see some kind of connection. But then what has it got to do with everybody else and how you look at them and you judge them meritorious? How would that fit in? But thank you for that. Any other questions? Any other comments?
Yes, Rabbi?
Yes, go ahead, Saul.
The question is, it says, assume for yourself a master, acquire for yourself a friend. Why? Why?
Why at all?
Yeah, why at all?
Oh, good.
Like, why at all? And,
yeah, okay. Right. Okay, let's go a step further. Who says? If you're happily married and you have a family and you're, or you got whatever. So why, why do you need a master teacher? Why is it that you need a acquiring a friend? Yeah. Okay. I think we all inherently feel that there is some kind of value to it, but I appreciate the question. Like, in other words, it's not. You're maybe if I'm going to paraphrase, if you don't mind, your question is like, it's like, you got to do this. Well, why do I got to do it? Maybe I could choose to do it. No, obviously we all have the freedom of choice, but this is Yeshua ben Perachia is telling us, hey, this is something you got to do. Why? Why do you got to do it? And thank you, Saul. That's great. Anybody else with a question? Okay, that's good. Let us now go into some answers. So, give some historical background first on Yeshua ben Perachia. He lived in the times of King Yanai. Oops, sorry. A second. Some more people want to get in here. Sorry. Let's see that. Okay. He lived in the times of King Yanai. King Yanai was, this is during the Second Holy Temple, before it was destroyed. If you recall, it was destroyed in the year 69 of the Common Era. He lived before that at some point. I don't know exact dates, but there's actually debate about the time period, as we will see from this particular story. Rabbi Yanai was a terrible king. I mean, terrible. He wiped out the Torah sages, right? He wiped out the sages. So Yeshua ben Perachia, he fled to Alexandria, to Egypt.
What century is this?
This is before the Common Era.
300 years before the. Something.
No, no, less than that. I'm not exact. There's debate about it. There's a debate about it, as you'll see as it comes out in a moment.
At the time of Shammai, Hillel, around there?
Before Shammai and Hillel. Shammai and Hillel were, Hillel passed away in the year 8 of the Common Era. So this is before that. And one of the ways we know is that comes in order before, because this is in chronological order, right? So we know that he comes before. So let me tell the story, and maybe that will bring a little more elucidation. So again, he fled. When things subsided and it was, and it came back a message to him that it was safe for his return, he was on his trip back. He fled with some of his students, as I said, to Alexandria in Egypt. On his return, it was in an inn with his students, and one of his students says, "Our hostess, she's not beautiful. She's got these round eyes, and she's not beautiful." Yeshua ben Perachia, hearing this, we're talking about holy people, or presumably, I mean, he's a holy person, but his students are his students and need to be on some kind of, level of, you're not looking at other women, married women in particular, and you're not commenting on their beauty or lack of beauty. It's not exactly an appropriate thing for, a person to do. And again, we're talking about, people not living in whatever. And so he excommunicated him. That student came back and asked for forgiveness, but he was very strong and very harsh about him, and didn't accept his apology the first time he came, and not the second time. The third time he came, he had in mind that he was going to say, "You're okay, accepted, apology accepted." But what happened was that he was in saying the Shema, and he signaled with his hand, some kind of signaling, meaning, just wait a moment, let me finish my Shema, and then I will, speak to you, having in mind that he will accept his apology. This person took it as a sign of pushing him away again. So he left, never to return, to ask again for forgiveness. He went and became an idol worshiper, practicing sorcery. Our sages, this led our sages to say that when you should push a person away with your left hand, which is your weaker hand. In other words, not strongly, not harshly, because look what Yeshua ben Perachia did. He pushed away this individual. And according to later sources, the name of this student was Yeshu from Nazareth. Now, we don't know for sure, because there's debate amongst later sources if this is indeed the one who was the progenitor. He wasn't the founder of Christianity. That was, 200-300 years later, but the progenitor of idolatry, moving away from Judaism. And what was it? Because he was, in his estimation, pushed away, wasn't accepted his repentance. Later on, Yoshua ben Perachia met up with him when he was already, practicing sorcery, practicing, whatever he was doing. And he said to him, do tshuva, do penitence, come back. And he said to him, I was pushed away with both hands. And I was taught by you that when you do sins and you make the masses sin, it's very difficult to return. And indeed, he didn't return, as we know. Now, again, we're not 100% certain that this is the individual we're talking about, but there are commentators that say that it was, and others say because of the time period and Herschel, based on your question, that's why I wanted you to wait, because I wanted you to hear the full story to give us the context, and that it was, before the Common Era, of course, that this happened precisely when. Again, if this is indeed who it was with, so then we know more or less when it was, and perhaps it was another individual. Is that clear? Story clear? So that's the context. Now this will give us a more understanding of now some of the statements that he made. So let's go into it with that context. The first thing he says is, make for yourself a master teacher. So first of all, who was his teacher? Well, if we go back to the Mishneh previous, who was his teacher? Anybody remember? So his teacher was Yossi, the son of Yochanan of Jerusalem. And what did he say? Let your home be wide open, right? And the teacher before that, Yossi ben Yazer. I mean, they were both his teachers, right? Because one was the Nasi, the leader of the people, and one was the head of the Jewish court. So they were both his teachers. And what does he say? He says, let your home be a meeting place for the wise. So what is that to tell us? Based on his previous teachers, your home should be open. So he had an open home, of course. What is he adding? That not only should be a home for the wise, but from all those wise teachers, you should have one master teacher. One master teacher. So he's adding now something to his previous teachers, right? Is that clear? So that's one thing. Another point is, he's saying that although, of course, learning on your own, we always have to do that. We always have to learn on your own, because you can't always be with your home can't always be open to many teachers, and you can't always avail yourself to your master teacher, so to speak, right? But learning from a teacher, as opposed to learning from the source material of the books itself, allows the teachings to truly penetrate, and that you absorb and it becomes yours. That's what the Rambam teaches. The Kuzari explains further why. Why is that? Why is it that when you learn from a teacher, as opposed from learning from the book? What's the distinction here? Anybody?
You might misunderstand or misinterpret what you are learning. When you discuss it with a more experienced teacher, you gain deeper understanding.
Excellent. Exactly. We may misinterpret. We will take it the way we understand it. We're going to read between the lines based on the way we perceive and understand and appreciate. When we have a teacher, then they'll be able to give us in a proper and a healthy way, an appropriate way. Furthermore, ultimately, hopefully, learning from a teacher means you're not only learning from the book, but you're learning also from the person. So it's not enough to learn what the book and the divine wisdom has to say, but how that is practiced by the person who is hopefully teaching and living it. So you're living a living example of it, or hopefully a living example of that. Is that clear? Now let's go a step further. Let's go even a step further. Yeshua ben Perachia, remember, he is the Nasi. He is the head of the Jewish people. And look what he's saying. Make yourself a teacher, but he's the master teacher. For me to say that would make sense, right? For you to say that would make sense. Make for yourself a teacher, because hey, I'm me, and we are who we are. We got a lot to learn, and we definitely. But he's even saying it. Now, why is he saying it? And again, remember the terminology over here is asay, make. Make, he didn't say inspire yourself for a teacher. Make means forcibly, like something like, like in action, like a forced action. In a way, an action, the act of doing something is arguably forced in the sense, the love of doing something is the feeling, but the action is kind of a forced thing. Now, if you're doing it with love, it's hard to separate between the love of doing something and the act of doing it. But the act is arguably forced. So what he is saying over here is force yourself to have a teacher. Why force yourself? Why would you force yourself? And why would he force himself? Why is he saying this? He is the teacher's teacher. He needs a teacher. We all need a teacher. That's the answer he's saying. Yes, we do. Even if you're the teacher's teacher, you are the ultimate capable, scholar. I don't need someone else. Force yourself to have someone else as your master teacher. How do you get there? How do you get there, folks? Give me one word. Reggie.
Surrender.
Surrender. Bittul. Humility. Thank you. Humility, which means putting yourself aside. Bittul, self-abnegation. And true Torah scholars, true sages, they're great. You see what I mean? Like I think of the Rebbe, and for those who have any connection, understand, wow, you have to have your teacher. That's it. Forced meaning coming from even a place of humility, in sense of obedience, a bittul, that putting yourself aside and recognizing that this is a truth. Now, when great people understand that, us people, lesser people, for sure we understand that that's, crucially important, that we need to therefore make, if such a person says, I need for myself, and circumstance, and perhaps, I'm not certain, but I think that's the context of the circumstance over here, right? Of him saying this, how important that is, because when you have that teacher, then, being that we're close to ourselves and we may, We may not, even though you may be very learned and even righteous, but still, sometimes that helps you to have direction. Helps you have a direction in a situation that maybe, as the sages said, don't be so harsh. Use your left hand, your weaker hand, when you're dealing with somebody that needs harshness. He was exerted. Halachically, he didn't exert beyond, because the third time when someone comes to you, you need to accept. But if you're not, that's only when you're being harsh. When you're not being harsh, then the first time someone comes to you, you'll accept their apology. So by having this teacher, this will help. And therefore, anybody, and for you and I, who are not, great individuals. I mean, we're great, but not, righteous individuals. We have our shortcomings, and we can rationalize and do misdeeds as a result, and judge ourselves, in a favorable place where maybe we shouldn't be so favorable. We need an objective eye of a teacher. Even if you have to force yourself. Then you say, oh, I don't really need. But yes, we all do. This is something that the Rebbe spoke about at great length. It's very important. That this, Selech Harav is like a mentor, is a mashpia, is a spiritual mentor. That, it's not just someone who you're going to for a halachic ruling. It's someone who can help navigate in life in those areas that we have challenges. We all have challenges, and we all need to, someone who can be that objective eye, who can allow us to do, the right thing in times that, self-love might dictate differently. That's the first part. Any questions or comments on that? So this person needs to be an individual. Ultimately, if they tell you something, you're ready to accept. And that's why the asay, make, force, so to speak. Force in the sense that what their suggestion to you, or their insight to you, or their, what they're telling you should do, you have to be ready for that. That takes humility. That takes bittul. That takes an obedience that, in other words, you're not taking it as a suggestion and then, I'll mull it over and I'll decide. No. It should be that you are accepting that this is what God wants from you. Because we don't always know what God wants from us, and we need to be able to accept that from a Selech Harav, to make that kind of person in our lives. By the way, it's hard, because it really means I have to put myself aside. But when we do it, there's something amazing about it, because it allows me to take the weight off my shoulders, and in a certain situation that I'm dealing with, and be able to know that what this person's going to tell me is what I got to do. And I just have to accept and do it. Sometimes it might be easier to do it, sometimes it's harder, but the knowledge that this is the right thing, and therefore gives us the empowerment that we could do it. Because if we are the ones who are going to solely choose, and we don't have that Rav, that that master teacher, that mashpia, that mentor, then first of all, we're putting the whole weight of whatever it is upon me. And again, is with the self-love that we have, that we may be blinded, And in the end, we just might do what's comfortable and what's easy and what might not be right. And that adds more pressure in the end on ourselves. And it's more difficult to live that kind of life. Does that resonate? Anybody have a question or a comment about that?
Well, Rabbi, I remember like at some point over the years, you once told me that the most difficult challenges are typically the most rewarding. So wouldn't that fall into this type of line of thought that, as difficult as it might seem at the time, the actual end results will actually bring you to an even higher height?
Very good. Excellent. 100% correct. Yeah, you're right. And so again, what's the bottom line over here? It takes a humility, a bittul, of being able to put myself aside, my feelings aside, my desires, what I want, and to put that aside in order to be able to accept that which someone else is giving me and telling me and suggesting to me to do. In the end, it's very rewarding, as we mentioned, because it's taking the weight off you. The weight is on the other person in a sense, and you just have to, know that this is the right thing, because you've given it over, to the mentor to help and to give you that proper guidance in the direction that you need to go. And now you just got to do it. That has its own challenges at times, but the empowerment is much greater. That's the key over here. There's an empowerment over here as a result. And exactly what you were saying, Richard. Yep, thank you for sharing that. Okay, let's go to the next point. Unless
Rabbi,
go ahead, Saul.
I was thinking of something else that you once said when we were taking a class, and it's probably very relevant to this, when you said, just leave everything that you learned outside the door.
Yes.
Okay. It's
yeah.
So it's complete surrender to me, to the learning process and to the education that the person will give you.
Right. So I thank you for sharing that. So let me now be more exacting on the words that's used over here based on what you just said, Saul. Thank you. And that is, you see, the term over here again is asay, do, make. Do for yourself a mentor. Do for yourself a master teacher. Do for yourself. Make for yourself. Assume for yourself. Right? Make. So what the point that you just made, Saul, is the surrender. This when you're coming to learn something. Like right now, we're learning something, right? So it's the process of learning is not so simple. Why? Because we all have ideas in our head. We all have preconceived notions about any topic, or not any, but many topics in life. And based on that, not necessarily we're learning anything. You know why? We're just regurgitating our previous knowledge, and we are not allowing ourselves to learn something new. Why? Because we don't put our baggage at the door. We don't put what we know at the door. Don't throw out your baggage. Pick it up on the way out, right? Or even use it, whatever. But to learn means to subordinate yourself to the teachings and allow that to now enter your mind, and not just to regurgitate your old ideas, based on something now. Oh, that brought up a thought to me in my head of something I went through, I experienced, I know, and now just, tell that over. What that means is you really didn't learn, because you didn't subordinate your mind to the nuance of the idea that has been presented because of the baggage that we have. And that's the idea that, leave it at the door. Here, what we're saying about having that mentor, having that teacher in your life, is that teacher, first of all, you have to make it, you have to allow yourself to that they will tell you something that you got to do that maybe, may not be so comfortable. You got to do it anyways. That's really having a mentor, really having a teacher, right? And you have to make that, as opposed to whatever other word, be inspired by it, or like, accept maybe, the idea, and maybe you'll then do whatever you want. That's not the idea over here. Okay, let's go on. Thank you for sharing that. Let's go on now to the next point. Acquire for yourself a friend. What does that mean, acquire? That sounds a little business, there's a business arrangement over here. What's the business of, making an acquisition? That's what the word kine comes from, kinyan, to make an acquisition. So what's the acquisition here? So first, on a very simple level, a friend, got to buy them a coffee, buy them lunch. In a sense, you're. But it goes deeper than that, obviously, But there is an aspect, should we say, of a friendship, right? That you are. But what does it mean? What's a friend? What's a friend? So the Gemara tells us, the Talmud tells us, that we all need somebody. This is not the mentor now, that we can share with them our fears, our challenges, our feelings, that that we can reveal that to them, and know that they will not judge us for that they will be able to help us through that, and so on. As I think it was, if I remember correctly, the Hitler ever said, when two people come together, so what you have is two divine souls against one animal soul, because animal souls don't get together. My negativity won't get together. Don't really unite, because the things that my animal soul wants is for me, and the things your animal soul wants is for you. So they don't really unite. But two godly souls then can battle. Two people come together, two godly souls can battle an animal soul. So when two friends get together, and this is really what it means, friendship is two godly souls that are coming together. In other words, if I'm only seeing you and your negativity, right, then that's not really a friend, and we didn't come together. So so let's explain. So you can have a connection with another person that's utilitarian. That's in business, right? It's utilitarian. I'll do something for you and be good to you, and you'll be good to me in return. That's a utilitarian connection to another. Then there is another kind that is a gratification kind of connection that we have, a gratification kind of love that we can have to another. That could be, as a man desires a woman, that brings some gratification, whether it's a physical gratification, whether it's a emotional gratification, right? Whether it's psychological, soulful gratification, whatever it is, but it's a gratification. And likewise, in friendship, you can have that, right? That there's a gratification, and in marriage, there is also the aspect of friendship, right? Of a gratification, that, in other words, that there's something I'm getting that I could share with my friend, as we just mentioned, right? Anything, and I don't have a worry. Why? Because I know they're not going to judge me. They're not going to judge me. So I'm able to share with them, and that's good. But then there's another level, and that is when the two people come together and they unite in a common aspiration. What's that common aspiration? Well, it's not business, because business is not going to be common aspiration, because I want my success and you want your success. Okay, I want your success because that will help my success, but that's not a real common aspiration. That's not a unifying one. It's only unifying only as much as I'm going to gain from it. But here, this aspiration has to be some objective truth that's beyond the two of us. And that is the goodness that is the goodness that we have for each other. That is the divine service that we both have as two people coming together, that we can connect with the divine service through our divine soul, that is greater than just my own, selfish aspiration. Because my divine service includes you. Your divine service includes me. So this is the kind of thing that the Mishneh is coming to say, to acquire. This is what the Rambam says, Maimonides. You're acquiring someone else, and the other one is acquiring you. You're acquiring each other, meaning you are bonding to each other, not for just mere self-gratification, but for an objective truth that's greater than us. And that together we could bring out in each other greater goodness, greater divine service. That's a different kind of friend. That's a different kind of friendship. That's a very Hasidic form of kind of friendship, that we're bonded to each other for something greater than each other. Again, if it's bonded because of the gratification that I get or that you get from me, so then that's not something you're not acquiring anything there, because that's your nature. You are seeking a gratification, and I have a gratification that I can unload on you, right? But that's not an acquirement. An acquirement is that there's something beyond the two of us that we're acquiring. Goodness and objective truth, that we're there for each other, beyond the needs, beyond my need that I have for you. Is that idea clear?
Rabbi?
Saul, go
Sorry.
ahead.
I'm
Yes.
sorry. I can't see that with somebody who you're not married to or who's a partner with you.
I hear you.
Why doesn't he just say wife or husband in there rather than friend?
Because to be honest, this is not meant to be your spouse.
Okay.
It's not meant to be your spouse, because your spouse would have to be extremely holy to be this, and that's not. It's not practical. It's not real.
Why?
Because there's expectations between a husband and wife. Not rightly so, but that's the nature of the relationship. Okay. There's expectations. So therefore, if you're going to share with your spouse, based on those expectations, they're not accepting you totally, and they're not accepting you totally.
Oh, okay. I get it.
So you're going to share, and what you're going to share will be filtered through some form of expectation that there is in the relationship. Both ways it's going to go.
Yeah.
That's why it says it's got to be a friend. Now, on some instances, be quite honest, is you're correct, Saul. On some instances, one's spouse is that. And that's great. But don't expect that.
Thank you.
Don't expect that. And therefore, if you have that with your spouse, that's amazing. But you should try to have it with a friend, because again, to be able to share, That we're talking about the higher level of that friend, right? The friend on the lower level is that I can hear my sounding board, I can pour out to them, right? This higher level is you're to each other. So you've acquired something. You've acquired each other, so to speak, as bonded to each other for something greater than each other. You know, the love and devotion is, you know, really what two Hasidim should be. That be able to look beyond whatever there is, and you can share whatever you need to, and that you can do that. Now, to find real Hasidim today is not an easy thing, be quite frank.
Okay.
You know, but that's the ideal that we're speaking about over here. So you're uniting for an aspiration that's greater than yourself, of a common good, and that generally will be meaning in serving God.
Yeah.
That, you know, and that you are able to connect in a way that the common good you're in others, because of that common good that you're aspiring to. So it's you're able to share your challenges, your difficulties, the things that weigh on your heart, that you could share with that person, and that person will help you to get to that better place. And likewise, you're going to help that person because have that common bond. It's like a Hasidic 12-step Farbrengen.
Okay. Makes
Right.
sense.
Where you could be real with somebody. It's not, not so easy, and it's making you so vulnerable. But important and necessary. The Rebbe Marash says that if you do not have a teacher, your friend is not a friend. And if you don't have a friend, then your teacher is not a teacher. Having a true friend is crucial for one's spiritual development. Because a true friend is there with the higher aspirations to bring you to that greater good. And therefore, you got to be that for someone, and someone will be that for you. That same person, in turn, can be that for you. That's the greater level, that same person could be there for you in that way, and you're there for them in that way. Not someone who's your sounding board, so I can get off my chest what's bothering me and leave it be. That's the first one. That's gratification. That's the lower level of a friend. That's not what the Rambam says that it's speaking about over here. That's not what we're talking about. You didn't acquire anything. Why? What do you mean you didn't acquire? All you did was get a gratification by unloading and dumping how I feel about my spouse, how I feel about my kids, right? That's not a real friend. It is a friend. Don't get me wrong. It is a form of friendship, but it's not the true friendship. True friendship is that you are bonded by something greater, an aspiration that's greater. And therefore, and you're ready when you unload, and not that you're getting judged, but you are unloading because you are connected to this person with a greater aspiration, how greater goodness can come from this. Not how I could feel gratified that I got it off me and now I feel better. Because first of all, when you get it off your chest, just because you feel better, you feel good, but you're not good. because being good means you did something about it. You try to do something that, not just unload. How I'm going to be better now, not how I'm just so happy I was able to get that off, and I feel better. That's what we say. That's self-gratification. That's missing the point of friendship. That's a self-gratifying friend. That's not real Knei Lecha Chaver. Yes, Herschel.
Yeah, I had a friend who left this world too early. This friend was not only a friend, but a mentor, a teacher, a brother, and he was a good friend who lived in Jerusalem. He left the world too early. And not only myself, but he was the link in the chain for many people that I met in Jerusalem. And he passed away just a day before Rosh Hashanah, about 7 years ago. And through him, I met Shalom Brat also, through this person. I met Shalom Brat in Jerusalem. Now I feel a very big lack, a very big hole. How can I...
Well, that's what
and I feel guilty, too, that I wasn't the friend, as much of a friend to him as he was to me. How do I fill up the gap? I don't know.
He wasn't your friend. He wasn't your friend. He was your mentor. Remember, we have two separate things over here. Don't confuse them. Two separate things.
A brother and a mentor cannot be a friend also?
A mentor is a friend, but he's a mentor in the fact that you are just listening to him. What he says to you, you follow. Right? You subdue yourself, subjugate yourself, you submit yourself. You have bittul to do that. Asay, make it happen. Right? You got to do that.
All he would have to do is go like that, and that was enough admonishment for me that I would not say a word more.
Okay, perfect.
Just a little finger like that.
But what I'm doing, I'm just making sure that we have a clarity that there's a distinction between the two. It sounds like he was not a mentor is a friend. Your spiritual guide, your master teacher is a friend, but he's your spiritual guide. Here we're talking about a friend now. Two separate things. You need both, right? That friend is someone, just what's on your heart, you can not dump, share, not be judged, but share in a way that you're aspiring to a greater goodness together. As two godly souls are fighting my animal soul right now, right? That's what you're doing. A very different sentiment, a very different point, right? So, two things. We need both. That's what the Rebbe Marash says. Oh my gosh, I can't believe this. I don't know. Are we going to continue, or are we going to continue this tomorrow? We're continuing? Continuing? Okay. All right, we're going to continue. This is amazing stuff. Third point, and this was the difficult one we had.
Forgot it already.
Huh?
I says I forgot the third point already.
Yeah, so that's you're right. It's been a long time. Third point is, what do you have to do? You have to judge everybody to the side of merit. So we asked the question, first of all, what's the connection, this point, with what we just learned, right? What's the connection of this to the previous 2 points? And why judge at all? Just don't judge another person. Why are you judging to the side of, to the side of merit, obviously, not to the, not obvious, but why? Actually, why to the side? Why not, judge, be honest in your judgment? Why to the side of merit? Or don't judge at all? So first of all, the first part of the Mishnah that Rebbe explains is speaking about a person who's greater than me, right? That's why he's my master teacher. The second, a friend, is my equal. The third is someone who I perceive less than me. So now we see a connection between the three. Furthermore, if I have a master teacher and I have a real friend, and you don't, I may look down at you. I may perceive you in a negative light. So therefore, I got to judge you favorably. That's one understanding. It's according to the Talmud. Right? Now, why are we judging? Not judge? Or why not judge? Why not judge, objectively? So what's the answer to that? Because none of us are objective. Only God is. Right? We're not objective. We all have some perspective and therefore some kind of attitude to an individual. To this one, I'll be a little more, forgiving. To this one, I won't be. Comes the Mishneh says, no. Everybody notorious. Oh, maybe I shouldn't judge at all. So no, actually, judging everybody notorious. So let's explain. So we learned this actually in Tanya, this concept. Chapter 29, 30 actually in chapter in Tanya. And that, what is that? When I can, and it's actually later on in Pirkei, it's going to be brought up, this particular Mishnah. If I can understand that someone who is below me in their observance, let's say, and even in just this particular area, they don't have a mentor and they don't have a real friend. So I need to know that, not to judge them in a difficult, in a absolute manner in a negative way. Why? Because first of all, their place and their character may be as such that they are struggling with this particular thing. Maybe my position and my character, I'm not struggling with this, so it's easier for me to make that mentor, that teacher, and to have that friend. But this person doesn't have that capability. They don't have the wherewithal in where their position in life is and what their character quality is. And I have to recognize that and therefore judge them favorably as a result. Furthermore, let's take it even a step further. Why judge them favorably? Is because in the end, everybody has the capability of revealing deeper parts in their soul. So when I look at another person who is, again, a person who I naturally see beneath me, right? Whether in observance, whether in character, whether in scholarship, whatever, right? And I look at them, naturally would see them beneath me. If I will see that their challenges ultimately means that they have the capacity to deal with it, and I judge them favorably, means that I judge them that now that they, let's say, they have a real huge challenge and they have a crass, there's something crass about them. That means if they dig deeper, they'll be able to deal with that crassness of themselves and to bring out something in them that would be able to refine them. So I need to know that they have that within them by the very fact that they are more crass. They have that capability in them. So me looking at it that way will empower them that they could actually live that way. That's what the Mishneh is saying over here on a deeper level. That's why you need to look at them in that favorable way. Because yes, they're beneath you in actual deed in some ways, right? But recognize that greater challenge that they have, that greater thing that makes them at this moment beneath, is really in the end something that is capable of bringing something much greater that they could reveal in themselves, because God doesn't give you the challenge that you can't meet. God doesn't give you that negative character quality that you can't refine. And if he's given you that, so therefore, I'm capable of rising above. That's how I have to look at that person. When I'll look at that person that way, I'll help them and empower them. Is that clear? That's a powerful idea. So this was really important for Yeshua ben Perachia to express, having such a student that we mentioned earlier, right? That kind of, according to many opinions, developed another religion, with about 1 billion people, more than 1 billion people on the planet. Obviously it was meant to be. That's what God wanted, right? But aside from the fact, that doesn't mean you don't learn a lesson from it. What is a lesson? Someone is so obnoxious, someone is so crass as looking at another woman and making a comment that she's not beautiful because for whatever reason. Of course it's crass. Of course it's not right. But that just means that in him, when you will judge to the side of merit, meaning, well, you're going to say that wasn't crass? No, that was crass, but you're judging the person, not the action. The person. It says, judge every person, not every action. An action that is evil will go to court, and you're not judging the action. That was evil. In the court of law, you did something evil, you gotta, court of law will deal with it, right? You stole from someone, right? What's his name that was just passed away in prison? Mr. Ponzi. What's his name?
Madoff,
Bernie Madoff, right? His actions judged, and they need to be judged. Him to the side of merit. Yes, him. He's a fellow Jew, right? Terrible actions, and he has to pay for it, no question. But him to the side of merit. Would I put on tefillin with him if I was had a chance in prison to put on tefillin? I would put on tefillin with him. Would I have him here on Study Torah with us? Absolutely.
Would he be part of a minyan? Would he be part of a minyan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, I don't see why not. Is that horrific? Absolutely. But how do you judge him to the side of merit? Him, not his actions. To the side of merit, which would mean, I would put on tefillin with him. Should learn Torah. He has to do tshuva. Yeshua, who cares, Bernie? Look what Yeshua ben Perachia had Yeshu from Nazareth. That was his student. He said this because he realized, he didn't realize what came out of him, 2 centuries later, religion, right? But he went off the path and was taking Jews off the path. So he would have judged him, not his action. The action was deplorable. To the side of merit, he's got a big challenge. But because he has that big challenge, he has the capability in his soul to overcome that challenge in him, and therefore judge him in that way, see him that way. And therefore, the first time he would have come, he would have accepted his apology. Powerful, amazing, unbelievable. I don't know how anybody's sitting in their skin right now. I can't. I'm thinking about this. My gosh. And therefore, when he did see him, he learned the lesson he did himself, learned the lesson. And when he did see him, Yeshu, sometime later, said, you got to do tshuva. because the message he brought home. Message would have been brought home earlier, then I guess, we wouldn't have over 1 billion people. They're actually, it's more than that, whatever, but you get the message. Any questions, any comments? Got to stop here. Oh my gosh.
If I may say, this is like the most beautiful redemptive quality about, how Torah and Judaism sees people. It's not that, I think that God judges us the way we judge other people too, I believe. And he always expects, us to turn things around. So I think this is such a beautiful way to see ourselves and other people.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, very true. So Matilda is asking, can we have a friend outside of faith? Trying to understand how we can have an aspiration level friendship out of the faith. Yeah, that might be a little difficult. Maybe in some areas that's possible. In some manners, but it would make it a little more challenging. So having difficulty finding a friend because of being an introvert, it's not about being the life of the party here we're talking about, and that kind of friendship, that's not a real, we're talking about one person. It's one person. It doesn't have to be more. One person. So it's, it's more about being vulnerable. It's not about being an introvert or an extrovert, by the way. It's about being vulnerable. Am I able to be vulnerable or not? Am I able to put myself in a place that I'm afraid how someone will look at me? That's what we're talking about when it comes to that kind of friend. Okay. I hope that clarifies. Hey, powerful stuff over here. We will continue our conversation tomorrow at 12:45, 12 o'clock with Parsha with Mendy. And 12:45 we'll do some more Pirkei Avot. And we're going to conclude here because it's been, thank God, a journey.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, folks. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you,
you.
Rabbi. Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you,
Rabbi.
Rabbi.
Bye. Thank
Have
you.
a wonderful day.
A wonderful day.